Hello everyone, this is a Historathon 2024 Q2 video, all about only two of the three books that you should be seeing in front of you. The third one on the end, this one here, is off my shelves and should be of interest. So, the protagonists of all things relative tend to at least try and make a case for a relative truth. And perhaps one's own opinion is not so very far away from one's own truth. At some point, this line of thinking begs the question, what opinion actually is? What is opinion? Genetics clearly plays a major part in this, most obviously as personality. I minded. You didn't so much. And therefore, there is a situation that might just be relative as well. We each had our own reaction, thoughts, opinion, our own truths concerning the same situation. But in history, the situation or event is the event. Our reaction to events does not remake those events into a version or even a sequence of individual versions. The acknowledgement by a mass of people of the reality of an event cannot make that event relative to its own existence. It just is the way it is. Opinion as to the moral character of the atomic bombs in World War II can and will vary, but those opinions, those truths, will not and cannot change the event, cannot change the history. The acquisition of history, the evidence, and subsequent understanding of history can rarely manifest by avoiding or ignoring the sources that have come down to us. Good, quality, proper history should be a fine synthesis between a prosecution and a defence in legal terms. We, the jury, piece it all together and arrive at a verdict which turns out to be, generally speaking, an objective decision. That is, an impartial, fair decision after careful consideration of the evidence. The historian should have the advantage of seeing the bigger picture. Perhaps he is the High Court judge. Jonathan's assumption was just that, as you may well know. The 100 Years' War, and I quote from Assumption, laid the foundations of French national consciousness, and for England a powerful tide of patriotism. In the preface to Volume 1 of Jonathan Assumption's The 100 Years' War, he has a terrific reference to the stuff of history which might be too easily forgotten or lost on the way. And I quote, "The sweep of events provides a framework. I've tried to describe not only what happened, but why it happened, and how it affected those who experienced it, whether they were close at hand, like the soldiers in the field and the inhabitants of countless burned-out villages and towns, or who saw it at a distance, like the bankers, war contractors, bureaucrats and taxpayers, and the readers of newsletters and proclamations." Close quotes. Situations are relative depending on where people are at any given point in time, but that does not make the events, the framework, or the narrative any less real. Assumption also has this line. Although narrative history has not always been fashionable, the facts sometimes explain themselves better than any analysis of them could possibly do. Okay, having said all that, it is interesting to consider, at least for a while, if and how that illuminates these two evidently very different books. Keay starts the relevant paragraph compared to the Sung dynasty, which interestingly enough he calls the Song dynasty. In his chapter, he starts the whole chapter, I think, by providing us with a classic, pleasing line, perhaps typical of history. And I quote again, "Until recently," that is from 2008, "international excitement over the discoveries made on the Silk Road by foreign archaeological explorers somewhat obscured China's own archaeological tradition. In such a historically conscious culture, the physical reclamation of the past had almost miraculous properties." Close quotes. And he then talked about credibility and credentials and prestige and a reverence for the antique, and yes, authenticity and not a little counterfeiting. But otherwise, and again I quote, indifference to the antique has seldom been a Chinese failing. Close quotes. Even the Sung Emperor Kojong is known to have read history every day in the afternoon, especially the Chronicles of Tso, which he read and apparently reread. Indeed, archaeology is noticeable in China, partly through the work of one Wu Yang, a prominent official in the Bureau of Policy Criticism. He encouraged archaeological study during his tenure in the 11th century. This is a very Chinese sentence, but also very Sung dynasty. The Bureau was a Sung innovation. So, from an historiographical view, the Cambridge history is, as you might easily guess, is fantastically detailed. The Keay is a summary of sorts that is supposed to keep us on the edge of our geopolitical seats, according to the Independent on Sunday. But some people have said history is always for someone. So perhaps there is an intermediate version. Maybe that is the 6-volume History of Imperial China, published by Harvard Press between 2010 and 12, I think, maybe, each of which appear to be about 300 or 350 pages. Perhaps Peter Preston should have the last word from me at least. There is no understanding China, present or future, without a sense of its past. Oh, that's that one, and bye for now.